Welcome, I'm Baruch-Lev and today I'll be discussing the glass link at the National Academy of Arts and Letters. The glass link is a structure which bridges the National Academy with the old American Numismatic Society building. It was designed in 2005 and built in the same year by James Sajeka in consultation with Henry Cobb and Michael Flynn of the famous Pay Cobb Fried and Partners architectural firm. It was built at Audubon Terrace and is located at 155th Street, New York City. Here's a bird's eye view taken from an article by Katie Gerfin, which shows you on the right the National Academy for the Arts and Letters, and on the left the Old American Numismatic Society building. Please note that the glass link, which joins the two buildings in the center, occupies a very prominent space between the two buildings. We'll come back to that. And also note the ornament of the Beaux-Arts buildings on either side of this glass link, which also reflect the ornamentation of the glass link itself, or rather, the glass link will reflect their ornamentation, as we'll see. Historical context. As mentioned, the National Academy of Arts and Letters is housed in a Beaux-Arts building designed in 1923 by McKim, Mead, and White. In fact, all of the buildings at the Audubon Terrace are Beaux-Arts style buildings, or at least classical revivals of the sort. And what's distinctive about them is that they all are cheek and jowl, meaning they all are touching each other, adjacent to each other, except for the American Numismatic Society and National Academy of Arts and Letters. National Academy of Arts and Letters has a distinctive space which was left there by McKim, Mead, and White on purpose in order to distinguish the structure from the rest of the tightly packed buildings, as well as to create a sense of arrival when you get to the location of the National Academy at the end of Audubon Terrace. The use of glass in the glass link, as we'll see, is de rigueur for these types of additions, since I.M. Pei's pyramid at the Louvre, I.M. Pei of the aforementioned Pei, Cobb, and Fried. Thus, it is not a surprise that Henry Cobb, who's a colleague of I.M. Pei, and the current treasurer, coincidentally, of the National Academy, offered the firm's services pro bono, and he put his other colleague, Michael Flynn, in charge of that as well. Description. The whole structure, 144 square feet, which bridges the two buildings, is made out of 7 pieces of low iron glass. Just 7 pieces. Low iron glass, meaning that the glass has a low iron content, which makes the glass a lot clearer. It doesn't have that bluish tinge that higher iron glass would have. Another thing that is distinctive about this is the 3 1.5-inch glass trusses, which are inserted, if you can imagine, the wall of the Numismatic Society here and the wall of the National Academy here. They're inserted into the masonry on either side. You see 1 truss, 2 truss, 3 trusses. And these support the 1-inch thick gabled roof over here. At the juncture between the wall and these beams is a U-shaped steel structure, also capped with bronze like the rest of the glass pieces, which runs across the top of the beams like so, and then goes down into the ground. So it supports these trusses, but it also serves as a gutter, which we'll see very important in a second. These two 10 by 16 glass panels, which are each 1 inch thick, also, which form the link's walls, also form an important ornamental feature, which we'll discuss later on. Mechanical systems of note. The floor of the link is made up of 16 laminated panels with white interlayers that are illuminated underneath at nighttime. The origin of this is really funny. Sajeka hired a student to build a model for this presentation, and they put Christmas lights underneath it so that you could see how the space would look like when it would be lit up. And when Henry Cobb saw this, he said, "This baby needs to glow." Assembly took place in a very fast 6-hour period. 1 crawler and 20 ornamental workers from Rockland County W&W Glass. And what's very important about this is that if something would have gone wrong, they would have had to start all over again, because you can't make on-site adjustments to glass unlike with stone materials, you could do something of the sort. Ornamental details of note. So if we go back here, we'll notice that the gabled roof here echoes the pediment of the National Academy for Arts and Letters over the windows. And what's also interesting here is you'll notice that the gable slopes towards the buildings. You would expect, and there was actually some controversy upon its construction, that the gable would slope towards the viewer, towards us, where we are in the picture, and that the ends of the gabled roof, the pediments as it were, would be adjacent to the buildings. But actually there's a very practical reason for its construction in this manner, which is, as we mentioned before, this bronze strip over here is a gutter. When it rains, the rain will fall down the sloping roof and fall out of the buildings through this gutter. If it was designed the other way, though, you'd have the water streaking over the sides panels of the glass, and it could weather the glass and it would not look very nice also. Another interesting ornamental feature, which we mentioned before, is this very interesting shape of the glass ends of the two buildings, the 10 by 16 panels. Their ratio follows the golden ratio, 1.618, of Pythagoras, which is used in religious architecture. It's possible that Flynn insisted on incorporating this as a way of firing back at Dan Brown. As we mentioned before, Flynn was part of the IMP, was a colleague of IMP who designed the pyramids, and Dan Brown falsely alleged that the Louvre pyramids were composed of 666 glass pieces, and 666 is a satanic number. So by using a divine proportion here, Flynn was insisting that, in fact, his buildings are not satanic in nature at all. The antecedent. Here we have the antecedent built by IMP. You'll notice both are glass buildings, and both modernist buildings are addendums to classical, as it were, style buildings. The Louvre is a very famous classical revival type building from the 18th century. And what you can notice is that by using glass, the architect can add something to the structure which is abstract enough and transparent enough that it doesn't completely detract from the original structure. Meaning, it's as though there is a vague abstract object which is transparent enough that you would not necessarily have to be obstructed by this object when viewing the other objects. And you have a clear distinction between the original forms and the modern forms. What's also interesting is both are addendums. The IMP pyramid is an addendum to the Louvre, but it's also a sort of cap for this underground section of the Louvre, which is a metro, which is also a kind of link, just like our glass link, between two sections of a museum. And like the glass link, it is illuminated from underneath. So as we mentioned, ever since IMP's pyramids, glass has been de rigueur for such addendums or links or bridges in classical buildings because it's a method that does not overtly distract from the original building, and it also can be used to reflect the original building in abstract form, as we saw with the pediments and the gable of the glass link. Thank you so much.